talked for years about having a place together in Mexico. So that was well before we knew you were around. And so really the story is I wanted to buy there, and we went on a vacation and in 2021, and then I just grabbed the newspaper and was reading in it, and I never even saw it. I put it away, and then one day I was like, I don't know, it was on the couch like maybe 5-6 months later, and a few months later, and I read it, and I saw a place called Blue Horizons. I'm like, this looks great, and I got all into this whole thing, and then I was so disappointed when it didn't work out. I was like, oh, I'm like, this isn't gonna happen. And then my wife like felt bad because like it was kind of like, oh, we were all hyped up about it. And she's like, there's this place called like Ancana. And if you look, they have this Bolongo, which is in Punta Mita, where we went on vacation, and it looks beautiful. And so at first I was like, since I was disappointed in I really wanted the other place, I was like, oh, I don't know, like, yeah, I'll look at it, you know. But I was disappointed because I had my heart set on it. And I kept looking at the videos. I'm like, she's like, this is nicer. This is actually better and cheaper and nicer than what we were gonna get. And so it took me like a day to digest it because I kept looking at it and I was like, it is better. It is nicer. See, I had to get through my own mind there. And I was like, oh my goodness. Then I was like, well, what about this company? Like, are they real? Are they reputable? Or what are they? And so then I did research and I saw your videos and Andre's videos, and I was like answering all these questions that I had, and I felt really good about it. And then that's when I had called you, and then after that, it was like we're so
Rest is
happy.
history. Yeah.
That's a real story.
What is were you guys looking for an entire vacation home before, or were you always interested in co-ownership or fractional ownership?
No, so we said that someday we would love to have a home of our own as a second
Mm-hmm.
home. But we also recognize that, you know, we love beautiful stuff. And it's not pretentious or anything like that. But like I said, I'm a life coach for marriages. My wife does trauma coaching. You know, we try to be humble, but at the same time, we work hard and we do love luxury. Like it's fun,
Yeah.
you know, it's a nice thing. We don't do it as a pretentious thing. We do it as a, you know, we're enjoying the fruit of life together. And so we always wanted to have a place together in Mexico. We mentioned a million times. And you know, the cost though are just through the roof, like crazy money. And so when I saw this whole idea of a fractional, we were so intrigued with it. But then when I saw what you do, which you have multiple options, we were like, this is a way of doing this sooner than having to wait down the road someday to get a full property and have a whole
Yeah.
mortgage. And so we're like, we could buy this in cash, no financing, and be done financially from a owning it perspective. And we're going to get the weeks that we probably would be able to use right now anyway if we had a full place. So we're like, basically, we're getting everything we wanted now without the whole concept of laying out endless hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, that we don't actually we don't have yet at that level yet. And
Sure.
so we're like, this is great. We're gonna get the luxury life. We have our own home. I don't have an extra mortgage. We get to share this with the kids. And then my wife was like, well, you know, here's the thing. She's like, we love variety too. And like, well, we have the variety. And so we said, well, this is actually perfect, the fractional, because now we get to do all the other vacations outside of here, which gives us all the variety. For example, we're going to go to Costa Rica in May. And so we're
Oh,
getting
nice.
the variety, but yet at the same time, we have a place that's ours, like literally
Right.
ours. We always wanted something that's ours, but we also didn't want to go to the same place forever. So now we get both. Like we had to
Yeah.
spend a little chunk of money. We get the luxury, it's ours, memories with the kids, our family, but yet we get the variety. So it just makes like perfect sense.
From a couple of our customers that, you know, the idea of having a place to come back to with, you know, your wife or your family or your kids and being able to do that over the years, that was really important to them. So it sounds like that was important to you as well, of having just kind of like a place that's yours. You're going to go other places too, but this is a place you guys can always come back to. There's always going to be memories there.
Yes. I'll show you at some point, but we took pictures on our first stay there and we picked the picture. And so on our wall, we're going to have a big blown up picture of our place as a family and our first vacation there. It becomes an ownership thing in your mind too. Like, this is our place. Like, hey, we have a place. And
Yeah,
it's real. It
absolutely.
feels good.
So just curious, how was the purchase process for you? So you mentioned earlier that you know, you were looking at another company, you guys found Ancana. obviously we had several conversations, but once you decided that this is something you guys were going to pursue, how was the purchase process? What was good about it? What was bad about it? Yeah.
Well, the first thing was, I mean, just being, I used to, before I was a marriage coach, I was in finance. And so you have to, you have to look at every contract. You have to make sure everything, you're always looking for what's the angle, what's the trick, what's the problem, what's the angle, am I going to lose money? So I came from that mindset. I'm not someone who just whimsically is like, oh, I'll buy it and see how it goes. I do all my
Yeah.
checks beyond belief. And so, but I also wanted this dream. So basically for me, it started with a call and you had answered. And I don't know if you remember, but I buried you with a million questions and you answered everyone like instantly, like buried you. And I don't mean it in a mean way, but I was like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I thought to myself, this guy is going to be like, I don't want him as a customer, but you just answered every question upbeat. And like, you'll love it. And here's why, and here's this, and here's the details. And I just kept going on and I fired away. And I don't know if I wore you out or not, but after that call, I was like, I think these guys are real. Like, this is legit. This is the real deal. We looked at the property, did all the research on the property. It was fantastic. And you guys were instantly like, look, you helped us go out there to see the building, to see what the property was going to be like, to make sure we had peace of mind. You guys even flew out to see us, or Andres did, and to say, here's what it's going to be. Here's the details, answered a million more questions. So it gave me so much peace of mind. And then to go further to answer your question, once we decided to actually move forward with the contract and everything, oh my goodness, then I asked another 4 million questions endlessly. So I'm sure, I was, my name, hopefully you guys didn't have me up as, get ready for the 2-hour call and you'll get nothing done today. But in the end of the day, you guys answered every single question. I kept waiting for like something to come by that was going to be like, oh, I don't know about this, but it never happened. It was endless with the contracts. Anytime I had a question, I said, well, what about this line? He'd explain it in detail. What about this in detail? How's the money transfer work? In detail. How am I safe here? Here's the detail. What if this happens? I'm big on the what ifs. Got a million what ifs answered. And so it was easy. The process was very, very easy, very informative. And then as it all moved along, I was always told what's going on. So I always felt like I was never left in the dark. So it was great. And then when it got time to actually see the property and go on our first vacation, you're always a little bit like, is it going to be as nice as we thought?
Right.
They said they were
You
going
get
to
that buyer's remorse.
buyer's remorse. And like, is it okay? They said they're going to make it beautiful, but is it really? Oh, are they really going to have the LED lighting? They did. Is the deck as big as they said it is? All the things that I was like, I wish it would be, but is it? It was, and more. In fact, our son, when he came in, he's like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be this nice. And I know all the kids walked in and all like, we own like a part of this? Like, this is partly like this? Like that? Yeah. She's like, we're millionaires. So we laughed. The buying process was really, really, really done well, which is saying a lot for someone like me. Because like I said, I'm, detailed.
It's not even just you. I mean, buying a home in another country is stressful, right? You're not as familiar with the laws. There's a million things that can go wrong. If something goes wrong and you're not there, like, what are you going to do about it? So, I mean, the questions that you gave us aren't questions that we hadn't heard before. It is stressful. So glad to hear that your experience went well through the process. So you guys have been to Bolongo once, or you've been twice, I guess. You went before you bought, and then you went with your family. Right. How do you guys see yourselves using the home over the next couple of years? I mean, I know you have kids that are going to be in the house for the next couple of years, so I'm assuming they're going to be going on most of these trips. But eventually, maybe they're going to college or something. How do you guys see your use evolving?
Absolutely. I mean, we're really family driven. And so I've come from a very old school mindset, keeping the family around and everything like that. So even though when they go to college and get married, I really, I'm very optimistic that the way we're built as a family, we'll be still close and around each other, just like I grew up. And so my thinking in this whole process is a couple of things. So one, they're going to be around and they're going to go with us as they get older. I mean, that's the reality is that, they're married, then they bring their spouse. That's fine. They're going to be a part of our family. That's number one in my mind. Number two, if the family gets real big, we'll look to expand. because, you guys have options for larger units. Um, you know, I will be open to buying a larger property, or at least bringing them out while we're using part of it and then rent out the other. But there's many options to do. But I see this as a lifestyle for the rest of our life. I look at this really as a way to live a certain way you wanted without having to spend the exorbitant amount of money it would take to own it, and then all the upkeep. And now you get to use the amount you want without it being a timeshare, which, I feel like you're paying for a right to have time as opposed to literally owning something. Big difference
Right.
to own an asset than to own, the right to be somewhere. So I
Access to
feel
asset.
that it makes all the difference in the world. As soon as you mention timeshare, you're thinking, oh, I love this place, but I don't know. It's kind of like, is
Right.
it going to scam me? When you own something, you own it.
Yeah.
You own a part of
I,
it, you
my,
own a part of it.
and my parents have had a timeshare for 20, 30 years and they love it. So for some people, the timeshares are great, but for people who
Absolutely.
want a little bit more, want the asset, want a little more flexibility, fractional ownership seems to be, a better option.
Yeah, and I'm not to say
Um,
it's timeshares are there. I'm sure there's many of good ones out there for many people that are happy, and I completely understand. I'm just saying from our perspective, knowing that I own something, for me, I feel a lot better about it. I feel
it
more.
feels like a better investment. Yeah.
It feels like a better investment, and I also feel more proud that I actually own it. As there's a different ownership feeling to knowing you own a part of something, literally, like contractually, like you own a part of it versus, you get to go there. I don't know. There's a difference for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I have one more question for you, Francis. I really appreciate your time here.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who is just now starting to think about wanting to buy a vacation home? They're just now starting to get into, the research and looking what's out there. What advice would you give having gone through this in the last, year and a half?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll tell you what I would do. If I was really, in a family or anyone that really wants to own something beautiful from a vacation perspective, and it's really been on your mind for a long time, I think the first thing is you have to open up your mind to the fact that this actually can become a reality. It's very easy to think, 900 grand or 1.5 million or whatever there's all different prices out there, but big numbers. And you're like, I don't have second home money for something like that. The first thing you have to accept or get in your mind that this actually can happen. You can make this real with real ownership to have something that will blow you away and it be your second place. That's the first thing is I think you have to get past the mindset that you can't make it happen. I think that literally that's the first step is this actually can be for real.
Yeah.
And then once you get past that, I would highly, highly recommend just simply going on your website at Ancana and looking at your listing, just to get started, to just see if anything speaks, get sparks your interest. And then do all the research and you'll see it. I mean, read all the testimonials, read all the why buy a fractional, like read all the details to give you peace of mind. And then, I don't know, I don't want to put this on you, but then I say, call you, because that's exactly how it started with me. Drive Ryan crazy. That's what I would say. And ask him 50,000 questions, because the truth of the matter is he's going to answer them and you're going to feel good about it. And now all of a sudden you're going to say, wait a second, this could happen. And then if you do get a chance, if you guys can make it work, see if you can get out there and visit the property for a week and see what you're actually getting physically. And if you fall in love with it and you're able to afford it, I can assure you that, at least in my experience, it's been nothing but perfect. It's been an absolute fantastic experience. And so if you do all those steps in a very short period of time, you might find yourself living a whole different life, knowing that you have a second place that you can call a second home for you. That's very luxurious. So that's how I would go about it.
I love that. Yeah, it is. It does all start with the mindset shift.
Mindset
And
shift.
that's part of our challenge is getting, a lot of people don't know that this ownership model exists. So getting this out there, and that helps
Right.
people, I think, start to visualize of, yeah, I want to own a vacation home, but I don't have $1 million or $2 million to buy one, or, maybe even 500,000 to buy one. But there is a way to be able to do this. And so that's our mission, is to try to get that word out there. Listen, thanks, Francis. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you doing this. It's huge for us. And it really means a lot to me to hear firsthand from you how your experience was and that you love your home.
Yeah, and I don't even do that many testimonials. So for me to do this with the passion that I'm doing, and it's not that I don't want to do them. I don't mean it that way. We're very busy running a business, and I feel, if I can, I can. But I wanted to make sure I set up real time with you to do this because I really appreciate what you've done for our family, and it was so important to us. And the way you've done this, I feel it's important to share that so that any potential customers that are thinking about doing this, can be assured that there's at least this guy who's very, 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 very pleased.
All right. All right. Well, thanks, Francis. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of the day.
All right. Thank you.